And thanks, Cliffy, and thanks everyone for being here. Give yourselves a bit of a cheer. Get excited. So, what if I told you that you could reduce your carbon impact on the world simply by changing the time and the way that you're using electricity? And what if I told you you could have a more comfortable, healthier, sustainable, and lower cost lifestyle for you, your family, and your community? I'm Rob Morris from IO Energy, and I'm going to tell you my personal and family journey about how we've done this in our own home, and how also our business and many of our customers have done similar. So it's easy to think of the electricity grid like a giant reservoir of electrons floating around. You put some in and you pull them out when you need them, but it's not physically how electricity works. In fact, at every instant that electricity is created in the grid, it's used at the exact same instant. The only way that we can store it is to take it out of the grid, turn it into a different form of energy. So we can pump it up hills, pumped gravitational, pumped hydro energy. We can take it and we can put it into a battery and store it as chemical energy. And this is important because the grid's more like a finely balanced set of scales. And it means it's really important when you use electricity. And why is that? It's because now our cheapest and cleanest ways of generating electricity are wind and solar. And they're only available and they're most abundant when it's sunniest and when it's windiest. So we can be very happy we're here in South Australia, where we lead the world by a long way in wind and solar electricity. We have the largest share of wind and solar of any large electricity grid in the world. And you can see that. Hopefully the layer was obvious, but this is the average electricity generation in SA over the last 28 days. You can see at midday we're actually generating about 130% of our energy on average from wind and solar. But you can also see, come 7 p.m, if we're adding more demand to the electricity grid, then, say you come home and you plug your EV in or whatever it is, you're actually causing, for the most part, a gas-fired generator to fire up to power you that demand, or this purple imported, mostly brown coal electricity coming from Victoria. So this is same data, I've just taken the wind and solar out separately. And wind and solar farms are actually shutting down. It's not less windy in the day or there's not clouds coming over at midday. They're actually shutting down because there's not enough demand for the amount of electricity being generated by these renewable sources. This is the same data kind of shown differently. This is just one day. This is just from Sunday just gone. So sort of very last minute presentation I put together. So very up-to-date information. But sort of what is this? How much electricity are actually starting off? It's a massive amount. So it's 10,000 megawatt hours that were shut off wind and solar electricity on Sunday. And like for people that aren't energy nerds amongst us, what does that actually mean? So it's a million electric hot water systems fully heated from empty to full. It's 200,000 EVs fully charged from empty to full, or 70 million LED light globes running for 24 hours. That's just one day. That's just on Sunday, how much electricity we were sort of wasting. So if you think any electricity I can take from that 7 p.m. where I'm making that gas generator fire up to power me and move it to the day where there's this spare energy we're not even using, we're having to shut it off, that's essentially 100% renewable, zero carbon electricity that we're using, and helping to also create more demand, because at the moment, because there's this lack of demand, they're already shutting off. It's harder to build more wind and solar to get us to 100%. We're still only at about 75. So by creating more demand in the daytime, we can actually get more of those renewable sources into the grid. So you don't need to sit at home in the dark to reduce your carbon footprint like this guy. People think that maybe their lights, their TV or cooking use most of their energy, so if they want to kind of do that, they're going to have to sit at home in the dark. Maybe it's just from a childhood where your parents are always telling you to turn off a light switch before LEDs existed, but these days TVs, LED lights are highly efficient. Cooking uses a lot of power, but not a lot of energy, because you don't typically cook for a long period of time. So how are we actually going to do this? And the reality is, for most homes, the biggest energy usage is for heating and cooling air and for heating water. This is my house, and I've kind of cropped this because I got a very messy shed, but just down to the hot water system there. When I moved in, we ran our hot water on gas. It's one of the most popular ways to heat hot water. There's kind of the most popular. You've got gas of either this instant type or a storage type, and then electric, either direct heating element or a heat pump. And the electric ones both work similarly, and one's more efficient, but basically you're taking the hot water, you're putting it in a tank, and you're storing it for 24 hours or more. But what that means is we can actually almost completely heat all of our hot water needs. We can shift off, get rid of that fossil fuel gas, shift to electricity, and we can do it almost all from that spare renewable electricity in the daytime. I brought a few props along, but this little device is actually a smart switch which you can retrofit to this probably 20-year-old. I got a second-hand heater that my plumber gave me for $50, but I can retrofit it with this to be a smart. I can connect it to my phone. I can link it to turn off and on when there's more renewables or when the price is lower, and exciting things like that. Similarly, so heating a home, the other really big energy user, it's similar to heating hot water, right? We want to do it. We're basically getting heat from outside to the inside. Instead of into water, it's into our house, and we want to store it, so that when we get home, we've got a nice, cozy, warm home, but we want to run it in the daytime. And we want to do it with electricity. Obviously, a lot of homes are still heated with gas, but again, we want to decarbonise, so we're doing that with electricity. This is a split system air conditioner. It's also a heat pump. What's a heat pump? A heat pump is a piece of technology that allows you to shift heat from one place to the other. You've got a condenser outside. It takes some heat energy that's outside your home and it pumps it inside to bring that heat inside your house. It brings in about 5 times as much heat for every unit of electricity it uses. So it's incredibly efficient. And most people have one of these in their house already, but many people don't even use them to heat. They don't even know it probably has a reverse cycle mode. They're using it for their aircon. So you have this very efficient device sitting out in your house already that can be used to decarbonise your consumption. We installed these smart Panasonic devices. The scale on the graph isn't very good, but this is their phone app, but it basically shows that the vast majority of the heating that we're doing throughout winter is all being done in the daytime. We're taking the energy out, we're putting it in the house, and then how are we keeping it in there? Once you've got the heat inside your home, you need to keep it there, so that's where your building fabric and your insulation and the thermal mass comes into it. Most of this stuff is DIY. You can do it yourself on a Sunday at low cost. You can go down to Bunnings. You've got your door snakes. A lot of people in older homes have these holes in their walls, old gas vents. They don't need to be there. You can block them up with PVC. That's just letting hot air out of your house all winter, and also sealing up your doors. Take a Sunday, do this stuff. That's how you're going to take electricity, spare renewable electricity in the daytime, get it into heat inside your home, and store it there. And then you'll still come home to a cozy home in the evening. And summer, similar story, but it's in reverse. So any electricity usage you can shift to the daytime, it's beneficial. Even if you don't have the most thermally well-performing home, there's a lot more solar in the grid in the daytime. So even if you're setting your aircon to come on a couple of hours before you get home, it's actually also giving you a comfort benefit. You're coming home to a nice, comfortable, cool home, and you've actually been able to do that using surplus renewable electricity from your air conditioner, rather than getting home, turning it on just as the sun's setting, and someone's having to fire up a gas-powered generator to meet that demand. Even if you don't have, a smart aircon or with a timer, back to my props, this, again, retrofit device, $100, works with any air conditioner because it just taps into your infrared remote, any split system air conditioner, and you can control it from your phone. You can set it to different temperature settings, time settings. And while we're talking about summer, pools, obviously not every house has one, but it's one of the most flexible electricity loads. you've got to run a filter, you've got to run heaters. You can pretty much purely run them on a timer using surplus daytime renewable electricity. So that's the big kind of users inside the home. We're not quite done yet though. Outside, out to the garage. Yes, most people's biggest energy user, not electricity now, but biggest energy user is a petrol or diesel car. It's the biggest source of fossil fuel emissions. And increasingly, we're having the opportunity now to replace that with EVs using, again, renewable electricity. Most people can probably charge their car on a Sunday while they're at home, and that's going to provide them enough range to last a whole week. And also gas. Most homes are still being built with gas connections, and that's fossil fuels. So once you get rid of all the gas out of your home, you can then disconnect it and save you a few $100s a year of connection fees. Induction cooktops, they're a lot better than gas. They perform better. The thing I probably like most is they're a lot easier to clean. Hate cleaning the old gas cooktop. You can store stuff on them. They're much more fine-grained control. They're more efficient. But if you can get all your gas appliances out of your home, you can replace them with renewable electricity and also cars as well with increasing subsidies and tax advantages. They're often going to cost less or a similar price to a comparable new car. And yeah, don't forget, there's a bunch of other things. So I'll go back to my props again, but again, smart switch that can be retrofitted to any device, $10 from Kogan. It's a smart controller that you can use to monitor and control your various appliances. This is a washer dryer. It does full cycle, both washing and drying, so you can set it, runs for several hours. You don't have to be home to use renewable electricity. You can set your appliances. Similar with a dishwasher, almost every dishwasher has a timer setting and even charging your power tools during the daytime. It's quite easy. And once you've kind of focused on the demand side, you've got that part all sorted. You've got your house moving to renewables, moving to all electric, and moving to daytime consumption. There's solar, there's batteries, and there's obviously smart meter. It's pretty important in electrical upgrades. Our home has a very heavily shaded roof. We've got a giant sort of couple of 100-year-old gum tree out the back. Few solar installers said, just chop it down and then put solar on your roof. But I figured the carbon outcome of that wouldn't be that good. So yeah, again, we instead installed a home battery. That was sort of the last piece to get as much renewable consumption as we could. And again, charging that and avoiding that evening consumption, those things you can't get away from, like your cooking and your lights and TV. And yeah, this is the end result of our journey, and this is using some of our company technology to produce this. This is our house over 12 months. This is comparing what we would pay on a typical flat rate default plan to what we're actually paying by using low-cost renewable electricity from the grid, saving small writing, but saving 60% over a typical cost. And this doesn't even take account to the savings from disconnecting our gas supply, so that's $500 plus, and then also several $1,000s additional a year by not using petrol. We went from two petrol cars down to one EV plus bus and walking and all that good stuff. Occasional Uber. The thing that I really missed, and it's super important, is obviously from the first graph you can see that most of our consumption now is in the daytime when there was renewables. I didn't manage to get that into the graph, and I was a bit late putting my slides together, so I printed out this more recently, but this is my last prop. But this is showing, it's showing the same thing, but it's actually showing the average grid mix of renewables in SA. Hopefully it's not too small, but it's almost perfectly correlated now. So we're actually using a much higher portion of renewables from the grid and creating that demand for more renewable electricity to get into the grid in South Australia. So yeah, thanks everyone. That's it from me.